Hello, I'm down here. I don't know if you can see, you know, in the corner, an old guy with a shaved head and whatever this is. I'm trying to. I am trying. Okay. I guess that's one good thing about facial hair. If you have it, you can play with it. So, I was thinking of kind of leaving things on to grow over the fall and winter period, but then I picked up my Remington and just cut everything. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I hope you're doing well. As usual, I'm tired, in a lot of physical pain, but I'm also well fed. It's not difficult to tell, I hope. Today's topic is paying for early access. And I don't mean the early access where the game is not finished and you kind of pay to play and sort of test. I mean, paying for a game that's in its gold state, meaning ready to release, and then you just pay premium, get a few days a head start. For some reason, the word itself eludes me. Now, I come from a time when demos were abundant, or there were demos available. There were magazines about video games and computing in general, and they usually came bundled with discs. You could get a disc back home and try your Tomb Raiders and your Duke Nukems, and whatever else was bound to release. Over time, network infrastructure improved, hardware improved significantly, and people started testing video games remotely. Digital was a thing. Suddenly, you didn't need to go and buy a magazine or get a disc. I mean, heck, haven't used a CD-ROM in ages now, and I don't miss it particularly. And I kind of understand, testing is necessary. It's absolutely a must. If you want to have a good product, you need more hands, you need more eyes and ears on whatever you're doing because you're too close to it. When you're too close to the things you're doing, sometimes you become blind to them, which is odd. You just get these like blind spots where you don't see something or you don't experience it the way others will. And that's where playtesting is important. That's where early access could be a good thing for bigger projects because that gives you the opportunity to show your work to more people, let them try it, let them play, let them give you feedback, and then you take that feedback and work on it. And then with modern day interpretation of early access, where people pay for kickstarts or GoFundmes or whatever there is, or just early access. You could also make a bit of money this way. Just kind of get some cash to continue working on polishing your final product. But then you see these games or these situations where you have a game that's supposedly gone through all the rigorous testing it could go through. A game where millions have been spent, countless hours testing back and forth, and the game is due to launch, and it offers multiple different tiers of pricing, each with its own little bundle of goodies, digital goodies, mind you, and some physical. And then you get the chance on the higher tiers to pay for playing the game slightly earlier than people who pay less. Now, the TLDR of this is it's malpractice. It is really bad. How bad? bad enough for me not to buy into it. But that's not something unusual in the sense that what I'm saying is not all that different or dissimilar to what most people who have lived as long as I have uh, seem to think. But there is something else that's important to kind of bring into the conversation, and that is some of these processes are almost irreversible. They are a product of this environment. You see, developers have one job, marketing has a different job. People who run companies have, third set of work responsibility. You get your stakeholders and so on and so forth. A business can get quite complex the more people get involved, and you need a way to organize all of it. You need a way to, you need guardrails. You need a framework. You need outlines. It can't be willy nilly. It can't be guessing things or figuring things on the fly. Sometimes you need to try and think of many different scenarios, many different outcomes, and sort of almost guess what the near future will have in store for you. And all of this again creates policies, creates processes where it's very hard to put a blame on anyone. Very hard to blame anyone. In fact, you cannot blame anyone, to be honest, but yourself if you're buying into these things. That's how it ends up being, because we can't really blame the people making the game for, again, doing this manipulative thing where I understand the three different tiers for pricing, or even 5 or 10 as Ubisoft. Have as many as you want. Get people real confused. Lawyers will be after you in no time. And I understand that, if you get bonuses, skins, DLC, this, that, the other, it's all egregious. Don't get me wrong. I think it's all terrible, especially if game content, stories, expansions, and so on, they're locked this way, where somebody pays for it and then they get things unlocked quicker. Yeah, all of that is terrible. I kind of can accept skins. Skins are fine, but anything else just bad. But you can't really blame developers for that, because they are creating the game. Now, you can't really blame marketing, because marketing is supposed to get as many eyes on the product as possible. Their job is to, yeah, think about the psychology of these things. Think about how you turn something that's of some interest into a want, then the want into a need. How do you? There's an entire gradual work that takes place over time, which is building up momentum. And sometimes people don't even notice it, and suddenly they're hyped about a product. I've been a victim to this victimless crime, if you will. And you can't really blame them, because that's their job as well. And then we turn to their bosses, and their bosses don't really make decisions for these things. Because you can get to a point where somebody very high up in the chain doesn't really get to make decisions like that. There is usually a board, there are usually meetings about these things. And again, you create policies, you create frameworks, you create documentation. And the safest route for everyone is to follow processes, to follow the guidance that's created internally, which usually is not a bad thing. More often than not, again, it's good because over time, documentation gets better, policies get better, guidelines are clearer and more useful. The whole thing becomes very efficient. And it almost, again, especially if you work longer at one place, certain things become common sense for that line of work you're doing. They kind of become a second nature for people. Unfortunately, this also creates an accountability void where it's just hard to find a scapegoat. It's hard to point at somebody and say, you are at fault for all this. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying if you follow the paper trail, if you actually go through every step of these things, you'll find out usually people we point fingers at, they may not be the cause of our grief. In this case, with paying a premium price to play a game early. So, what can be done? I don't think much can be done from any single person. I think the market is trying to normalize this, and they will just watch where the money goes. And if for some reason they see uptick of income, they'll just continue doing it and thinking this is fine. Because again, on paper, it is fine. But from where I stand, pre-ordering, I'm 50-50 on that. Paying for early access to test a game that's not out yet and it's going to come out, like Path of Exile 2, which you don't have to pay for, but you can jump in and test early on. I'm fine with that. But personally, just like seasons passes, I will stay away from paying to play a game earlier, especially online games, especially games that require you to connect online to something. Because it is very likely that patching will take place if something's broken, and then that patch could break your stuff because it's so hastily put together. If more people need to connect to the game and more people pay for this early chance to play, servers get hammered, it gets terrible as well. And quite frankly, there is no rush for any of this. Games are getting more expensive over time. And especially, again, they're not getting more expensive because the price tag goes up. They get more expensive because of all the additional junk you add to them that makes them more expensive. It accumulates. That's how it works. Yeah. Paying to play a game early, not for testing, but to play early, is bad. But it's very difficult to find out somebody to blame. It is very difficult to do that. And all we can hope for is that more people talk about this, more people share things online in a very polite but constructive manner. And again, the fewer people spend money for stuff like that, over time the market will adjust. It has to. Yeah, that is all. Thanks for listening. I'll see you around. And this is a new microphone. It's not as good as the other one. Just wanted to test it. At least it's comfortable because it's just one cable. And that's Throne of Liberty right there on the screen. Yeah. It, again, early access, tried it. It was like a free event. Take care.